slippin', slippin'.
Or should I say, Merry Belated Christmas. So for those who celebrate it, hope you had a wonderful Christmas, and for all, I hope you have a wonderful New Year's. Now, my gift to you is hopefully to teach you a little bit about clutch tuning with respect to engine tuning. Because I would say that without a doubt, it is probably, in my experience at least, one of the top two domains in which people would struggle to tune their engines, and that is because of their clutch setup. When you think about it, clutch tuning is really about one thing. You know, if you want to look at it at its core components, what are you trying to achieve? Okay. Well, a lot of people think in terms of, well, I want to get good grip and good traction, you know, blah 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 blah, and I want, you know, but I think it's a little too advanced to think in terms of what you want the clutch to do. All right, because first and foremost, you have to understand what you don't want it to do. What you don't want it to do is cause slippage. That's it. That's what tuning a clutch is about in my mind, is to avoid any sort of slippage. Now, slippage could be from the clutch shoes on the clutch bell, you know, inside of it, i.e. you're sprung, you know, too much load on the engine. Or it could be the tires on the surface slipping, okay? But if you look at the two polar opposites, all right, the antithesis of one another are what I just said. Slippage from the shoes on the bell, or slippage from the tires on the surface. We want that happy medium in the middle. The rest will take care of itself. Now, one of the examples I showed you was the clutch where it was slipping inside of the clutch bell. And specifically, that was on a Savage. I would say that is definitely the more common of the two types of slippage that I've seen and experienced myself. It's not germane just to a Savage, but again, due to the design of the Savage, which, you know, and this is going to be a whole other video on that, but due to the design of exactly how the engine is mounted, versus where the spur gear is, and the available infloat on the clutch bell. You know, there's just so many different variables that go into that. Man, it's real easy to pop your bearings, and that's what causes the slippage in this instance, is popping your bearings, okay? What do I mean by popping your bearings? Well, what you want to do is think in terms of the result. Here's a bearing, okay? There's grease inside of it. When grease escapes, you've popped your bearing. Often you'll hear people say, you know, man, I get a lot of gallons on my bearing shit. And these are exact quotes. Man, one guy told me one day, if you have to change your clutch bearings more than once every 5 gallons, you're doing something wrong. Well, sir, I don't know what to tell you, but I've never gone more than a gallon without popping my bearings, so I'm doing something wrong. I asked the gentleman to please explain what I'm doing wrong. He wasn't able to. I then said, well, maybe perhaps I can explain to you what you're doing wrong. Show me your tune. show me the results. I mean, don't want to just talk about a bearing. Show me your shit running. You see, in these guys' minds, a bearing only needs to be changed when it disintegrates. Which, I don't know, to me that defeats the whole point of a bearing, right? Bearing is to keep things running smoothly, not to keep things running. At the end of the day, what he didn't understand, what a lot of these guys don't understand, again, is the result. In this specific instance, okay, it's not the fact that the bearing is void of grease. It's the fact that there's grease inside of the clutch belt. Many people degrease their clutch bearings for that very purpose. Okay. Now, let's say an axle bearing. Well, okay, it's not the end of the world if some grease escapes. You want that very smooth, of course, but in this instance, if grease gets inside of here, the clutch shoes aren't going to be able to grip. If the clutch shoes can't grip, the engine's not going to be able to move the vehicle. That's real shit. Now, to all the good people out there who are interested in learning something new, what I can tell you is, if you've not serviced your clutch bearings in at least a gallon, I'm willing to bet that you're unable to tune your clutch, at least for that reason. There might be other reasons, but definitely for that. If you want a Savage and you haven't looked at your clutch in over a gallon, then I promise you, I would say there's a 99% chance that you got problems with your engine. Not so much the engine, I shouldn't say that, but with the engine's ability to be tuned. It's not your fault, because you wouldn't think that, right? So, because not a lot of people out there are evangelizing this sort of information, in my opinion. But I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you, I've been through this. I would say I spent probably 2 gallons on this very subject alone, and that is bearings popping in the clutch bell, causing slippage, causing heat, causing spur gear strippage, blah, blah, blah. I know of what I speak in this instance. I feel very confident on this. So if you have specific questions, let me know. But like I said, I'm going to come out with a separate video on the Savage alone, because, where the Savage, it's a situation where if you don't, especially if you're using an aftermarket clutch, you can kiss the baby then, because you got to have it spot on. Just because it looks good on the bench, trust me. It has to do with flex, and your engine plate. And there's just so many, like I said, so many variables involved. I don't want to get into all that, but now how do you tell? How do you know? See, it took me a while to understand what the hell's going on. It doesn't sound right, but I don't know what it is. How do you know? This is simply the difference between having it work correctly and having it rip ass. So I would advise just rule that out. Replace the bell, or put new bearings in there. And from there, it's a matter of the way to fix it. Now that you have it running okay, you spring up. Okay. Once again, common sense has to kick in. If you're running light aluminum shoes with 1.05 millimeter springs, again, let's be honest with ourselves. How we maintain it correctly? But if you're running something like nylon shoes with 0.90 millimeter springs, which is stock for the Savage, spring up. When it comes to fixing something like this, there are 2 things you have to consider. First, you have to think about, is your clutch simply not working correctly, or is it simply not tuned correctly? Now, working correctly would mean take a deep look inside yourself. Have you maintained your clutch, right? Have you changed the bearings? Take that bell off, put your finger through it, wipe it. Are you getting any sort of grease on your finger? All right. When's the last time you replaced the bell? Because here's often what will happen. You drive it, you clean the bell and everything, replace the bearings, you take it out again, you drive it, it sounds like it's ripping ass, and all of a sudden, it goes down. That is what threw me off. What happens, I've determined, is that the grease gets baked inside of the bell. Because you have to understand, these clutch bells, they get up to the 500-600 degree range, right? The grease will just bake on the inside wall mount. And when it gets hot again, it will melt. It's like a vicious cycle. So my thinking is I just replace the bell.